Hello, I'm Alma Schneider. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and the proud mother of 4 children, one of whom has Prader-Willi syndrome.
And I am Iris Miller. I'm a certified rehabilitation counselor and the proud mother of 2 children, one of whom has quadriplegic cerebral palsy and is nonverbal.
In this podcast, we discuss the uncensored truth about raising children with disabilities.
Prepare to laugh, cry, and hopefully learn something new.
This is 2 Moms, No Fluff.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of 2 Moms, No Fluff. I'm here with my lovely partner Alma Schneider and I'm Iris Miller. We're so happy to have you join us again. Please recommend our podcast to other people who have children with disabilities and allies to the disability community. This is why we record this content so other people can share and learn. If you can, remember after this episode to give us a 5-star rating so other people can get exposed to this content. And today we have a very special conversation. Alma, do you want to introduce the topic?
Of course I will. Welcome everyone. This is a topic about exposing our kids to creative arts and expressive arts, that things that we might not automatically think of when we have a child with a disability, but it is so vitally important for so many reasons. Our kids, just like any other kids, have a need to be creative. I think it's a primal need for us all to be creative and to be able to express ourselves and to be a part of artistic endeavors. So I'll start off with how meaningful School of Rock was to our family. Our son is very interested in, just likes to sing on his own. And it never occurred to me in the early years that he could be a part of some kind of a musical group because, you know, his voice is good, but I wouldn't say it's, you know, he's no who am I thinking of? He's no I'm not gonna say Bob Dylan. Maybe who's the guy that that Karen likes, Iris, the singer?
Oh my gosh, Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Well, Lin-Manuel Miranda or Bublé, whatever his name is. Forget it. I'm trying to think of some amazing singer. I keep wanting to say Liberace, but I Pavarotti. He's no Pavarotti, but there is a place for him in the singing world. So School of Rocks exist in most cities. If you're lucky enough to have a School of Rock near you, it can, you know, be above your budget, but it is something that it's an organization that also has scholarships. And my son was able to participate in bands and sing, not be judged. It was so inclusive, and he was part of his age group. It was developmentally appropriate to be in these bands and to sing. Everybody was very supportive and non-judgmental. And it meant so much to him. It meant so much to our family to be able to go to the recitals and see him sing. And it was something that he really feels confident about himself. He considers himself a singer, and he is a singer. And this is something that is a beautiful thing that we all need to remember, that our kids need to be accepted in their communities with whatever it is, and they have an ability to do anything creative, just like we do. It might be a little different, it might present itself differently, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think artistic expression is a part of our, you know, humanity in so many ways. And children start with expressing themselves artistically. You know, the minute you start maybe feeding them solid foods, because you know how babies like to smear the food on the tray of their high table, and this high chair, not high chair table, sorry. And this is how they start really creating arts. You know, the way that this is almost like finger painting for them. There are many parents that rush over to wipe the mess off, but let your kids express themselves and use their hands. It's so appropriate developmentally and so important for the gross motor and fine motor skills at that age. So let them enjoy that. And remember that many times in the early years, kids create art, and we as adults need to name it, right? So they would present us with a painting and we have the urge to ask, what is it? it doesn't need to be anything. Art can just be there for the sake of the sensory enjoyment of, you know, smearing the colors. And many children really just enjoy the process of it, and it doesn't have to have a result or an end to it. So I want to encourage people to let their kids enjoy the process. That's the first thing. And the other thing is to not be afraid of trying new modalities to interact and create art. So if your child cannot, let's say, use their hands, don't be afraid of let them use their feet or toes. And don't be afraid to explore making art with your elbow or with your mouth, whatever can work. My daughter sometimes liked to paint with her nose. She would stick her nose into something and then use her face to draw like that. We do have more advanced methods in which she's holding a paintbrush in her mouth and paints like that. But I think it's also very encouraging for her that she can use other parts of her body to, you know, artistically express herself.
Yeah, wonderful. And you're reminding me that it's also important to frame these pieces of artwork. We have lots of framed artwork by all of our kids in the house. And I go to yard sales and thrift shops to get cheap frames. I go on a hunt for a frame that's an appropriate size, so it doesn't have to be expensive to frame it yourself. And we have them in prominent places and in not so prominent places in our house. And I think that that is a real source of pride for all of our kids to see that we thought this was nice enough to frame. We've also made greeting cards out of the art that our kids have done. And that's something that's really special too, that they can send out cards to people with their own artwork. It's very special. Something else that I wanted to talk about was theater. You know, Lincoln has participated in theater groups that were in our community. There was one that was run by high school students that was in the neighboring town, and it was a free program. And he participated for a few years. He got to be in the shows, and it was a very big deal for him. He got, you know, there were people in the shows who had all different kinds of abilities. And I also know of children who have been in the plays in their school with, you know, all the neurotypical children as well. And they had a part that might not require speaking, or it might require speaking, and maybe they didn't enunciate as well as the other students, but push for your child to be included in those shows, because those are really integral parts of growing up and being in school or being in your community if you're homeschooled and there's a community theater in your area. But there is a place for our kids. And if it doesn't exist already, that, you know, their inclusion, work on making it inclusive, because these are really important milestones for kids, being on stage and accomplishing that. And even if they don't get their lines right, or if they flap while they're on stage, there ain't nothing wrong with that. And let the audience see that, oh wow, there's someone who it might be neurodivergent or have other abilities who's in the play. And I don't think anybody's going to object to that. And I will tell you that I have noticed in our own high school that there has been a concerted effort to include people who have autism in our high school shows. And it becomes apparent, and everybody is thrilled to see that kind of inclusion. So if it's not there already, make it happen.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Alma, I want to add to your, framing artwork bit, because
Mm-hmm.
some of the children in our lives, they create a lot, and it's important to them that whatever they created is presented. So I want to suggest a method in which you collect the creations, and every week, let's say on Friday evening at the end of the school week, you put everything out on a table and let your child choose the one that is going to be hanged on the refrigerator for that week until the following Friday. And then you do another selection like that. And those artworks that were chosen to be presented on the refrigerator, at the end of the year, you can basically scan them all and keep them on your computer for future reference. And you say goodbye to all of the paper clutter, because I know it can accumulate and can be too much, especially in small apartments. So just a side note about that. And I wanted to actually bring to mind the programs in the Montclair Art Museum, because I think those are good programs that can be implemented in any art venues around, the US and beyond, because the program was such that it created a collaboration between music and plastic art. So people were able to create whatever it was that the project was for that week while listening to a live pianist playing on stage. And the effect of the live music is phenomenal on everyone, right? We are all kind of moved by music, and it really created a good atmosphere for children of all abilities to kind of create together. The tables were arranged in a way that there was a huge selection of art materials on each table for each participant to kind of choose their materials and what they liked. So if it's a person that does not like to work with, let's say, glue, they would choose the paint. If they liked to work with fabric, they could work with fabric, etc. And each session had a different topic to it. For example, Eric Carle, and people who could make art with the inspiration of, let's say, the very hungry caterpillar, and what can a hole in a page symbolize, etc. So it gave a lot of space for individuals to kind of really be as artistic as they wanted to be. And my daughter participated in those sessions, again, holding a paintbrush in her mouth. We did have to do some research and buy a special pair of scissors that we could help her kind of like press on with one hand, etc. But with little accommodations, I think people with very varying abilities or lack thereof could be a part of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're also reminding me, talking about the framed art again, that if we don't want the clutter of collecting all this art, an option is to take a photograph of every piece of art that they do and save it, and then have a file of all their art that's not taking up any physical space, because that is an issue. I know someone who shall remain nameless who saved every single piece of art for her children from their first art piece. And I don't know where she is now with all that art stuff, but I can't imagine. I have another friend who looked at each piece of artwork that came home in the backpack and then threw it in the garbage because she did not like clutter. Whatever floats your boat, but your child might have an issue with that, perhaps, or maybe not. But it's really important to not have all that crazy clutter if that's an issue. And so just photograph it all, keep it in a folder. Maybe you can make a photo album or different photo albums with the photographs of the art. So it can be a variety of different things to show how important, we feel that is. I want to talk about artistic shows. So, for example, there are lots of shows on television, like there was a lot of competition shows, like stage makeup, like costume. What is it called with makeup? Like sci-fi makeup, and competitions for what is it called when people put on just makeup, for movies and shows, and there's a competition whose is better. And there are also singing shows like American Idol and The Voice. These are great for kids who might not want to be involved in the actual making of the art, but they can be involved in the process of it's like art appreciation, and watching it and having discussions about which one you chose, who do you think you should win in these competitions. That's something we've been doing for years with American Idol and The Voice, and it's a great social, it's a great icebreaker and conversation piece to talk about with other people. Oh, you like American Idol? Who do you like? Why do you like them? I like this guy because he sings in this way, or I like this person because of the way she dresses, and it makes it fun to listen to her sing. Also, whatever it is, it can be a conversation starter, talking about art and talking about expression, and that's almost, that's just as important as creating the art yourself. It's like an art history professor, for example. They're involved with art, but they're not involved in the making of the art. So it's really important for community as well. It's a great icebreaker that everybody can, or most people can get on board with.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to actual art therapy. It's not very common, but something that we've done for many years. And I think that art therapy is something beautiful. And if it's done with the right artist, it can be just phenomenal. I remember that the first art therapy session my child attended, she was a year and a few months old, and her hands were fisted like that. She was very spastic, couldn't like move anything. And I'm just like, I don't know how this is going to work, art therapy with this child who's like obviously very young and doesn't understand much. But the art therapist kind of took her fist and dipped it, first into the water, and then she spread Vaseline on her hand, and then she dipped it into a cast making thingy, and then
Wow.
then there were a few choices. She put a red bucket and a blue bucket, and like which bucket is she looking at, and then okay, it went into the blue bucket, and then she had to choose a yellow ribbon or a red ribbon. Making a long story short, she ended up creating a puppet on her hand that we
Wow.
later cut off, and it remained like a doll that our daughter at 1 month and 1 year and a few months was made by herself, for
Yeah.
her best
Amazing.
ability. That was her creation. And the power of art therapy in helping children express themselves and own processes and choices is so magnificent that I highly recommend, if you have the ability to find an art therapist in your area, do engage with that, because it's just phenomenal.
All right. Yeah, that's so creative. I love that idea. I love it. For anybody, for any child, that's a great process to go through. The last idea that I have to share is cooking, because cooking and baking, especially, very helpful to, because you're part of the process and you get to eat what you've made. And for my son, uh, who has Prader-Willi syndrome and food is a real issue, it's a great way to not, because he's so cut off from so many food related activities, that doing this with him, and he may be unique in the Prader-Willi community, but he didn't feel as much of a need to pick at the ingredients and eat them, because it was sensory. Like, he got all the other sensory pieces of dealing with food. We did have to monitor, and do have to monitor a little, but that was something that he's usually excluded from a lot of food related activities, and this is a way to have him in that community of food food makers. And he loves the idea of baking. He loves being a part of it. He loved doing it with his friends, because again, it was food related when he typically couldn't do that, and it's just monitored. And something that we did, that I'm not sure if I've ever mentioned in any of our episodes, is that this started during COVID, but we continued for a while. Airbnb has activities as well, experiences, it's called. If you go to the Airbnb website, they have food experiences so that you can Zoom with someone from Scotland, for example, which is what we did, who taught a group that was on Zoom from all over the world how to make scones, something that was very simple. Lincoln, we got the idea to then give that as gifts to friends during COVID, so they could all be together on Zoom safely in their own homes with their own ingredients, making scones. These experiences still exist. They're great for kids. The parent or a caregiver can assist them in doing this, but it's also a really fun thing to do with family members in other countries or in other states or in other neighborhoods, and you want to get together and do this. They're not very expensive, and it's another expression, another creative expression of a very simple task, like a few ingredients for the scones, and you have someone help you. So these are all, you know, out of the box ideas for our kids to express themselves, to be creative, and mostly to be included in what other people are doing in this, you know, in the world of art.
I want to share that for us, art became our favorite pastime as a family. And for our family, it took a while to find the, you know, activity that can be the equalizer, that everyone can enjoy equally. And when we got to understand that performing arts is a way that the whole family can spend time together, everyone enjoys it, and we also kind of have the aftermath benefits of it. We spoke many times in this podcast about my daughter's obsession with Lin-Manuel Miranda. And this is something that, you know, came to be after watching Hamilton a few times. And I think that you need to probably see in other musicals to maybe appreciate Hamilton and appreciate Lin-Manuel Miranda's work with other musicals that he was involved in. But all in all, I think that there is an advantage if your family, like in your case, Alma, is a very musical family, that everybody plays an instrument and sings, etc. It's almost natural for Lincoln to become the singer that he is. And I hope that while everybody is listening to this episode about art and how to involve our children with art, I think it's also good to consider the family as a whole and what can the family enjoy as a whole, because then it's much easier to support the artistic inclinations of a specific individual in the family if everybody else is maybe as committed or likes that same activity just as much.
Very good point. And I'll end with Lincoln attended, I've spoken before in the podcast. I always wanted to take a tap dancing class just for fun. The idea of it was fun. And I brought Lincoln along, and he had a great time. And most of all, he loved telling people that he was in a tap dancing class. So it's not just the participation in it with a very patient teacher that we had, but also he gets to tell people that he's involved in this, and that should not be dismissed. It's a very, very important for kids to be able to let other people know that they're doing stuff. And it was fun. I love that class. I think I need to go back to it with him. You have anything else to add, Iris, or that we done for today?
I would just summarize this episode about art with us needing to be creative as parents. We always need to reinvent things for our children. In my daughter's situation, it was mostly inventing the kind of, I guess, aids, how to put a helmet with a stick on it so she can, you know, drum or like play the piano, how to create a piece that she can bite on so she can hold the paintbrush in her mouth, etc. And I'm sure that for other families, it's other inventions that they need to come up with. So I hope that the parents can also enjoy the artistic creations that lead to their child's involvement with the arts. But I guarantee that it would pay off in, I guess, in bounty. How do you call it? Like in
it'll pay off.
Yeah, just
leaps and bounds. It'll pay off. Something like that.
Lacking the words in English, but there is so much fun when your child has a hobby and an activity like that it just makes their life more whole. So Alma, thank you very much, and I guess we'll see you all next time.
All right, take care.
Bye.
For more information, please go to www.twomomsnofluff.com. Thank you.
If you like this podcast, please subscribe and give it a 5-star rating so more people can hear it. Thank you.